So what you have is modules. Different kind of modules in BCV rack. This is a very much like little sections within a one synthesizer, and a synthesizer's source of sound is the oscillators. This one has two oscillators, and that's amazing because you can mix them together and get all sorts of kind of richness together. Now, this oscillator also has a ton of different waveforms, and you kind of click it and drag it. This is a sine wave, which is smoother, and the sound kind of looks like the waves. It's a little more jagged, more intense. The pulse width wave, where you can kind of like, on some synthesizers, you can kind of expand the how wide the width of this wave is, and all sorts of like, here's another, it's like a 16 step or something like that, but this is a saw wave. Let me make sure. No, I'm sorry, that's the saw wave. So a saw wave is a little more harsher. Let's see what that sounds like. So yeah, it has more of a buzz essentially. Now, in the middle, but let's change this sci-fi strings around a little bit, and let's make a smoother sound. And a sine is a smoother sound essentially. Let's start with, actually, let's do this. Let's pretend. Let's do a better. Okay. Done. Okay. This is a little more of a traditional, soft kind of synth sound. Okay, again, these are oscillators, and you basically manipulate these two. They work together, and this middle button modulates it. So with a synthesizer, you start with an oscillator, and the rest is shaping the sound. Anything from the reverb to the filter, and modulator gives it some movement. So this wave will influence this wave over here, and this wave will influence how this one moves. So they work together and in modulation, essentially. Okay. Yeah, like the waves will help pulse or move another wave. So this saw wave will move the sine wave in a way that they move each other. They work with each other. Now let's go down to here. Let's clean up the tuning a little bit and start with 0. And what I'm doing here is the tune. You see this, the sense, that is 1/100th of a note. These are little microtones that you can tune it. And a really common thing to do with synthesizers is, especially digital synthesizers, is detune it a little bit. It adds a little character. It makes it feel like it's an analog synthesizer. And so you don't want to detune it too much. So that sounds. And then this also transforms in semitones. This one in synths and semitones. This is more, tune is more subtle. The semitones, and there's 12 of them to an octave, I believe. It's a little more dramatic. And check it out, the semitones work towards movement and shaping the sound. So just play along with it, play around with it. Now these are interesting. This will add, if you click on here, Unison will add the same wave on top of each other, making a richer sound. Let's see what it sounds like. Let's take this away. I don't want to overburden it, so maybe just like add a 3. I like it. And what you're doing is adding character. The third or fourth thing in this area is the H. The H, I believe, it's a harmony. It adds a harmony to it. So it might be a third, but you don't have to know what harmony is. It just adds it. Let's try this. Oh. Hold on. I think we have to hit it down. Not doing much, I'm not sure exactly. Yeah. You can see how all that. I'm going to take this distortion out and add a little delay. And my favorite, bring the volume down a little bit. It's absolutely maxing out over here. You don't want it to turn red. Okay. There it is. Much better. Okay. All right. So one of my favorite ways of shaping a sound is a filter. And a filter will filter out little, like a low pass filter will let the low notes or the low timbre pass and cut out the high. So you say low pass, and these are low pass filters right here. You hit this and you can play around with it. Let's try to do this again. Just play around with it. It basically shapes, like this cuts out everything, and then this starts letting the signal in. .24 is a little more precise, so I like to do 12. This is called a shelf. This is too harsh for me. Got a shelf filter. Okay. You just get what you just generally figure out what you like. I'm going to jump down here. This is another very, very important and common way of shaping a sound, and it's the ADSR, amplitude, decay, sustain, and release. And basically, you're just shaping. When you hit, you're shaping the note. You're shaping the key note. You hit a C, and you see, well, the best way to explain this is the attack is a little slower. So I hit C. It takes a little more time and less time to fall, because but if I were to take down the attack, the note hits right away. It doesn't build up. If I had to bring up the attack, or essentially it takes a while for the note to hit full on. Once it's up there, that's the delay, and release. So you're just shaping the note with the attack, the decay, sorry, not the delay, sustain, and release. This is the attack, this is the decay, this is the sustain, and then this is the final release. See? What does it look like when you max it all out? It's pretty. Takes a while. That's just too. See that? That's just too long. All right. This filter plays around with this and helps shape this through, again, attack, decay, sustain, and release. So essentially, like, it's the filter gets applied quicker if the attack is sharper and quicker. Now, over here is it's called the sub oscillator. So there's actually 1, 2, 3 sound sources, and fourth if you count noise. Noise just basically gives it a nice little hiss. It's different from distortion. It gives it another kind of layer of depth and quality to it. I generally don't put too much noise in, but that's just my preference. So you'll notice that it's the oscillator, the sub oscillator. When you bring up the sub oscillator, it's in the mix, and you can hear that lower note, and it's at least 1 octave lower than this. Now you want an extra octave, you hit that. You can kind of hear a subtle look. And it just adds a richness to it. Bring the noise up. You can kind of hear it. Again, this oscillator can be shaped just like these other two oscillators. This is very similar to what's going on here, except for it's an octave to 2 octave lower. Feedback is an interesting little trick. It's kind of like a delay system. It's called a comb filter, and this delay takes the signal, post signal. This messes with the actual signal. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't use it as much. So, but it can create interesting sounds. It's a filter by a comb filter is a filter implemented by adding delayed version of the signal to itself, causing kind of a constructive and destructive kind of interference. It can kind of it modifies the timbre of the note, a bit of the harmonics, and again you're working here. You're working with semitones again, and that's. It's almost like the how many delays there are, how much does it delay, and this is how intense it is. And tune, I'm trying to think what tune is, but just play around with this. If you like the sound, use it. It gives some interesting sounds for sure. Stutter is very strange. Not a lot of synthesizers have stutter, but it is really cool. It's almost yet another kind of delay, but it adds this very sharp repetition. It adds a stutter. You want to keep it soft because otherwise it's a little sharp, a little harsh. Here's distortion. It's another thing I shy away from, this distortion. You might like it. I like distortion on my guitars, not my synths, but it definitely has a place. ARP is really fun. It's super fun to play with, and it's short for arpeggio, and it basically plays the note in the rhythm that the BPM in, and the patterns in a pattern. Da, 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 da. It could go up, back and forth. Let's go and go to an actual ARP pad, and let's try this on the run maybe. That's more like it. I like that sound. Add I like that. A lot to do, and these are there's a few little more modules to check out. I kind of like This is the overall modulation that you can play around with. To add, again, movement. That's what it's all about.